How's it going, guys? Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Today I wanted to talk about vehicles in Cyberpunk 2020, and the reason I wanted to talk about them is because I feel like it's a real wasted opportunity when it comes to vehicles. You know, most of the time when we're playing our games, we just think of them as tools from getting from point A to point B. That's how I used to think about them, and I feel like it's a huge wasted opportunity when it comes to vehicles. There's so much that goes on with them. It's a huge part of city life. It's a huge part of your personal life, that just to, throw them to the wayside or think of them as nothing more than just, a tool, I feel like, is not taking into consideration all the cool things that you can do with it. So I'm here to offer you guys some really cool ideas, some cool insight about what you can do with vehicles in Cyberpunk 2020. The first thing I'll talk about is how important or significant vehicles are in Cyberpunk. And second, I'll talk about some roleplay ideas, some cool things that you and your players can do while you're inside of a vehicle. And the third one that I'll talk about is combat. What cool creative ways you can involve vehicles with combat. Now, most of my videos that I make are targeted towards a referee or a GM creating a game. But, I feel like players can get some really cool insight on this, especially the role playing and stuff like that. And let's get started. So, how important are vehicles in Cyberpunk 2020? Like I said earlier, city life, it requires vehicles. I live in LA and I know exactly what it's like. As soon as I turned 16, that's all I wanted. All my friends wanted a car. What kind of car you had, all those things are so important. And Cyberpunk, and usually the settings that we play in Cyberpunk, if it's not Night City, it's some other city. Unless you're playing some kind of nomad campaign. In that case, vehicles are more important than anything else because that's how you survive. But the main points I think that make vehicles important in Cyberpunk are: number one, city life requires personal transportation. If there isn't very good public transport within your city, like LA is terrible, New York is awesome when it comes to that. You need a car. That means you need a place to park it. That means you need to repair it. And these are all hooks and plot hooks that can lead to really cool things that you can do with your players. They go to a mechanic shop and they overhear some kind of conversation at the mechanic shop. They find out that it's run by some kind of mob, Russian mafia or something like that. They make a contact, a connection, and boom, 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 you just got them into this whole new little lane of doing something cool just because they went and did a mundane task like changing their alternator or something like that. The second thing about vehicles that make them important are the way that they protect you and save your life, the protection that it gives you. When you're in a jam, you need a vehicle. The only thing you really can do is hope that your vehicle is somewhere nearby so you can get the hell out of Dodge. The other thing is, when you're driving through a combat zone, the vehicle can save your life. Literally, it's the protection that you need to get out of it. Now, I don't think vehicles are like tanks, unless you build them that way. But for the most part, small arms fire, or, anybody that's on foot chasing you, they're not going to be able to catch you while you're in a vehicle. All that kind of stuff makes vehicles super important for protection. The last thing that makes vehicles super important in Cyberpunk, and especially in Cyberpunk 2020, where style over substance is one of those things that's repeated over and over again, is the prestige, the class, the style. Like I said, as soon as I was 16, I couldn't wait to get my whatever. When I was 16 years old, Fast and Furious was the biggest movie. And of course, I wanted one of my own rice rockets. So whichever one of my friends got one, you don't just get one of those cars. What rims do you get? What modifications do you put on it? That really just carries over with everybody. And the older you grow, now you want like the Mercedes or the BMW or the Bentley, or, dare I say, Bugatti if you're really that affluent. Maybe your players, when they're creating their character and they're spending money on what kind of car they want to get, or after they've made their money, they want to buy a car that best represents who they are. Maybe they want to be low key, and buy a little shitty car that's a bucket that gets them from point A to point B, but under the hood there's something going on that people don't know about. It's a sleeper. These are all really cool things that you can do with vehicles that make them super important in Cyberpunk. So now that you know how important vehicles are in Cyberpunk, I wanted to give you guys some role-playing ideas. Now, these are some ideas that I came up with. You guys are welcome to use it. You guys are welcome to add to it or whatever, and I hope that it helps you guys out. Now, the reason I came up with these ideas is because, usually whenever I plan my games, I don't want it to just be you go from point A to point B, you talk to this guy, you do that thing, and you fight somebody, and then that's it for the session. That kind of stuff gets really repetitive. I like to change the scenarios. I like to change the settings. And, sometimes I'll start a session with you guys are in the car driving in traffic. That's the first idea that I have is a traffic jam. You start the session saying you guys are in a traffic jam. You need to formulate a plan because this, and this happened in last session. That idea that you give the players where they're just in traffic, sitting next to each other, touching elbows. It's not just, you meet in a bar or all the other tropes and things that we're used to. You got to get creative sometimes, especially when it comes to Cyberpunk. Another thing is stealing an enemy's car. Maybe you stole an enemy's car while you're in combat with them. After the combat, during the combat, you take the car, you leave, or you go to a club or a restaurant and you see an Arasaka Corp and you know what car he came out of, and you're like, what? We need some information. Maybe he has some stuff in his car. Maybe that's the only way you can get into an Arasaka compound is because of his license plate and his car. So you're like, let's get this thing, let's get out, let's go to the compound and get in before he realizes that we took his car. Another cool idea is one of my favorites is kidnapping someone. No, that didn't sound right. I don't like kidnapping people, but I like it within the game. Sometimes you roll up on somebody, you pick them up, you throw them in your car, and you just start driving. And they're like, what the hell's going on? You start interrogating them. This leads to some really cool, role-playing within the car. Maybe you're kidnapped. You're the one that's being kidnapped and they're interviewing you and the tables have turned and you have to try to find some way to get out of your restraints without them noticing and do some little wah 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 Jackie Chan stuff and get yourself out of the car. Another really popular one is an escort or convoy or delivery thing. Hey, this is the thing, I need you to get it there at this time. Get in your car and get over there. While you're doing that, there's all kinds of roleplay ideas that you can do. Maybe there's more than one vehicle with your party. You guys are talking to each other through radios or Bluetooth or whatever the hell you guys figure out. Maybe you guys came up to a checkpoint, police or criminal. Come up to a police checkpoint. You got something illegal in the car. That's just like a routine checkpoint. They're going, you 3 cars pass, and then boom, of course, you guys are the unlucky one. They're like, you pull over to the side. License and registration. Whoa, what the hell's going on in here? Why is everybody packing so much heat? Who are you? Do you have a license for that? Oh, shit, what the fuck just happened? Or, you get to a criminal checkpoint. Hey, if you want to come through this area of town, you got to pay the toll. Give me the car and everything in it, and we're going to take you as slaves. Another really popular thing is car chases, obviously. I mean, I'm sure that this is like the first thing you think of whenever you're thinking about vehicles is a car chase. Now, I think one of the things that we really fall into most of the time is thinking that you just do a bunch of drive checks. You come to an intersection, drive check. All right, you made it through. Another one, drive check. Or we do stuff like random tables that randomly generate a world in front of them, like, all right, traffic cone with construction, pedestrian crossing the street, and the light is red. Like, these are all things that you roll on some kind of chart. I feel like you lose a lot of flavor with that, so you got to think of some other creative ways to make a car chase seem interesting. Maybe a random guy just decides to be a hero and blocks traffic because the cops are after you guys, and he's like, I'm gonna be the hero. We've seen that stuff in car chases before where the cops are always telling people, don't get involved, we don't need any heroes, but people don't listen. They ram their car into the guy that's being chased. There's all kinds of cool variables that can happen within a car chase that I think you should think about other than just doing drive checks. Like, are you driving well? Okay, you're driving well. Maybe you got a flat tire. Maybe there's a pothole. Maybe there's a dead end. All kinds of stuff. The last role play idea is racing. Racing to a location to obtain something first. Both of you leave at the same time from different places. You don't want those guys to get to wherever to get the thing or the person. Maybe they're going to kidnap somebody and you got to get there before they do. So that is a series of drive checks, and no one's really chasing you yet, I'm sure. Maybe you go past a cop doing like 90 and he's like, oh shit, wee you, now you're dead. There's all other variables that can come in between you and where you need to go, the route you take. Maybe you took the wrong route. Maybe you see them while you're in a race, and then now you're chasing them and you're shooting them, and it's like a combat or some weird thing is going on because of it. So the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to vehicles is combat and the creative ways you can use vehicles in combat. Now, a lot of us fall into the same habits of just putting vehicles in random areas and using them as obstacles. I've done that when it's come to combat. You're in a parking lot and the vehicles are just cover and that's it. They might as well just be a brick wall or something. But I feel like there's really cool things that you can do with vehicles that are unique to Cyberpunk. You won't get it in any other tabletop RPG, like a fantasy setting or stuff like that. There's things that vehicles add to the mix that other RPGs just don't have. So like I said, once again in the intro, there's wasted opportunity. So one of the things that I love doing is car chases with violence. So we talked about role playing and how you can get out of a situation with car chases. But now that you're throwing in guns and violence in the mix and shooting, now this is not just a roleplay encounter, it is a combat encounter. And the thing about combat in a vehicle is the terrain always changes. Where the enemies are always changes, where you are always changes. So I always recommend using some kind of visual aid to show the players, where they are in respect to the enemies, where the obstacles in front of them are. And what I usually like to do is each round I change the battlefield. I change where the vehicles are, how it's facing, and now you have an advantage for shooting because you're closer to the driver of the other vehicle, or you have a disadvantage because you're all the way back there and you flipped 3 times. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen within a car chase when you throw guns into the mix. Now, another thing that comes with vehicles is, cars break down. They break down especially when you're overstressing them, when you're putting them through the rigorous things that come with Cyberpunk and combat. So let's say your car breaks down. Now all of a sudden the players are overwhelmed by enemies. Now they are encircled by enemies. They have to get out of the car, and the car is their only cover, and they have enemies from almost all directions firing at them. So you put your players in a combat situation that is hectic and dangerous in a very organic way. It's not just like boom, you're ambushed. It's some one thing led to another, cause and effect, and now you're in this shitty situation. What are you gonna do to get out of it? Escort missions go wrong. You can be ambushed. It was a setup. They knew you were going to come down this road. Then next thing you know, spike strips, roadblocks, and boom, 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 you guys are overwhelmed. So similar to the car breaking down thing, but maybe the players might be able to see this happen before it gets to it. Car breaking down is something that happens suddenly and isn't easy to predict. But an ambush, there are signs, like there aren't people on the streets. All of a sudden, all the shops are closed and the windows are barred and people are looking out their windows because they saw something happen before. You see smoke in an area where usually smoke wasn't there. These are all like perceptive checks that you can do to find out that there is an ambush and, save your ass. Another thing is a police chase turns into a gunfight. A lot that has to do with the first thing that I talked about. But, when the police are involved, it's a really different situation. The police are the biggest gang in Cyberpunk, if you think about it. They have the best resources, they have the best technology, and a phone call away from calling their buddies over to the situation. So the longer a chase goes with the police, the more likely you are going to die or be arrested, or, anything else can happen. So police chases are combat on a timer. And that hectic thing that happens within combat is different than just a regular car chase. Now, thank you guys so much for supporting me and all my videos. I really just want to say thank you to everybody, that is on Reddit, on the Discord, and everyone else. I really appreciate you guys watching these videos, liking and subscribing and sharing with your friends. All the comments and all the kind things that you guys are saying, it really just motivates me to do more videos like this. So that's what I'm going to do. More videos like this. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, all those fancy things. Make sure you guys join the official Artal Saurian Discord, where we talk about Cyberpunk, The Witcher, Cyberpunk 2077, all kinds of other stuff. They're really awesome there. They're super inclusive to all groups, and they're very respectful of all groups. I've enjoyed myself there and enjoyed the company of everybody talking about Cyberpunk. It's a really cool place. I highly recommend it. Other than that, make sure you guys join and follow me on social media. I'm at John the Wise on Twitter. And that's pretty much it. We'll see you guys on the next video. I hope these ideas help you out. Make sure you write in the comments any other suggestions you have or for videos or anything. I'm writing a tally of all kinds of stuff that I'll be working on. And see you guys on the next one. Bye.